Microsoft, OpenAI, and United States Teachers Union are hatching a plan to bring artificial intelligence into the classroom, and that is a headline from Wired today. So joining us live now is the author of that piece from Wired, a senior writer for Wired covering big tech, Paresh Dave. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's talk about this. Students, they're turning to AI to solve math problems, to write essays. Teachers are seeing this. They're trying to figure out how to deal with this. Is this okay or not? But before I ask you that question, I want to go to the president of the American Federation of Teachers and what they had to say about the arrival of AI during the announcement today. Take a listen.
When we saw ChatGPT, when we saw it like so many others saw it, I think in November 2022, we knew it would fundamentally change our world. The question was whether we would be chasing it or whether we would try to harness it.
Aha. Okay, Paresh, what do we know about this? What is the plan? What does it mean for teachers?
Yeah, so the American Federation of Teachers is teaming up with Microsoft, with OpenAI. They're going to open up a national academy in New York where they're going to try to train teachers on how to incorporate AI into the classroom. How can we ethically and smartly allow teachers to harness AI technologies, whether it be a chatbot like ChatGPT or something else that comes in the coming years. And they want to train up hundreds of thousands of teachers, about 10% of all teachers in the US over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's going to exist, so let's work with it. But you can't have your student write the whole essay using AI, so we have to catch them on that.
Or maybe that's the future, right? That's what they're trying to figure out.
All right.
And that's what we expect this academy to research and look into. But there's going to be concerns, right? There are definitely teachers who believe that ChatGPT, tools like that have no place at all in the classroom and should not be part of students' routines because it hurts their critical thinking skills, doesn't allow them to develop all the necessary skills for life.
Yeah.
So there's going to be criticism that should we be partnering up? Is it inevitable that these technologies will exist? And I think that's the debate that's going to continue to happen even as this training happens.
Sure.
Hey guys, I apologize for that audio hiccup there. Yep, my fault. It's your boy Talk Williams, host and creator of Hip Hop 50th. And let me say, yes. AI has made its way to the classrooms. Say what you want. The kids was using it anyway. Maybe they should have been using it. Maybe it should be some type of control, some type of governance. But there's no way that the teachers, the school system, or the government was going to prevent or stop the students from using any type of artificial intelligence. And they shouldn't, okay? So in other words, cut it out or cut me in. That's just a saying. But now we have Microsoft as well as OpenAI partnering with the Teachers Union, and they will be creating a national academy in New York where they will train teachers on how to incorporate artificial intelligence, LLMs, large language models, the ChatGPTs, the Geminis of Google, the Copilots of Microsoft, and all of the other tools, hopefully, into the classroom. I think it's great. I think that this day was coming and it was inevitable, and there was just no way to make sense of why that would not happen. Just no way. I mean, think what you want about the kids not having critical thinking and not developing the other social engineering skills that are required for, let's just say, not just jobs and skill sets, but humanity in general. I mean, think what you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's pros and cons to everything, and the world is just different now, completely different. But I'll start this article over because I think it's important to understand what's happening here, and let's get it again.
Microsoft, OpenAI, and United States Teachers Union are hatching a plan to bring artificial intelligence into the classroom, and that is a headline from Wired today. So joining us live now is the author of that piece from Wired, a senior writer for Wired covering big tech, Paresh Dave. Thanks so much. Okay, so let's talk about this. Students, they're turning to AI to solve math problems, to write essays. Teachers are seeing this. They're trying to figure out how to deal with this. Is this okay or not? But before I ask you that question, I want to go to the president of the American Federation of Teachers and what they had to say about the arrival of AI during the announcement today. Take a listen.
When we saw Chat GPT, when we saw it like so many others saw it, I think in November 2022, we knew it would fundamentally change our world. The question was whether we would be chasing it or whether we would try to harness it.
Aha. Okay, Paresh, what do we know about this? What is the plan? What does it mean for teachers?
Yeah, so the American Federation of Teachers is teaming up with Microsoft, with OpenAI. They're going to open up a national academy in New York where they're going to try to train teachers on how to incorporate AI into the classroom. How can we ethically and smartly allow teachers to harness AI technologies, whether it be a chatbot like ChatGPT or something else that comes in the coming years. And they want to train up hundreds of thousands of teachers, about 10% of all teachers in the US over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's going to exist, so let's work with it. But you can't have your student write the whole essay using AI, so we have to catch them on that.
Or maybe that's the future, right? That's what they're trying to figure out.
All right.
And that's what we expect this academy to research and look into. But there's going to be concerns, right? There are definitely teachers who believe that ChatGPT, tools like that, have no place at all in the classroom. And should not be part of students' routines because it hurts their critical thinking skills, doesn't allow them to develop all the necessary skills for life.
Yeah.
So there's going to be criticism that should we be partnering up? Is it inevitable that these technologies will exist? And I think that's the debate that's going to continue to happen even as this training happens.
Sure, there could be some that go, I'm still old school. They're really a new saying, the old school and new school. Okay, another headline that we're talking about, imposter pretending to be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, actually an AI voice, a high-level one, really hard to detect, was using that. So how exactly does AI impersonation work?
It's very simple. You upload a short audio clip of someone's voice. You download their voice from a YouTube video somewhere else where it's easy to find. You upload it to one of many services that now exist to allow for this. And a few minutes later, you have a giant voice print that you type in what you want it to say, and it says it. We've seen this happen with a number of global world officials, Ukrainian officials that were impersonated a couple of years ago, duped, many high-profile people into thinking that it was a real thing.
Right. So that's the next thing. Isn't there dupeware? Isn't there something that's going to flash and say, that's not that person?
There are attempts to build technologies like that.
Okay.
There's question marks about how effective it is. Is it something that companies actually want to roll out? As my colleague Lauren Good wrote about back in May, the low-tech way to solve this issue is calling the person back on a trusted line, communicating with them or through an intermediary that you already know, and like, is this real? Is this really you?
Right.
Like, did you leave me this weird voicemail?
Yeah. Do you need this money?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Oh, wow. Well, you hope that we're all using it for the right purposes moving forward, and we can detect when there's kind of the side ones that are going astray.
Yeah, but that is one of the concerns here, that generative AI is making these scams way more believable. It's making it harder for people to tell the difference.
All right, well.
So guys, what do you think? I'd like to hear it from you. There's a balance to me, AI, artificial intelligence. And when we say that to people, even though AI or artificial intelligence has been around for years, yes, for years, what we know it as, what the mass public knows AI as, is Chat GPT. Even though we always felt and we always had hints that it existed, and that whether you think it's the government, secret agencies, high-tech firms were using artificial intelligence, we became completely exposed, almost ingratiated, embraced with OpenAI's Chat GPT. I think that is what brought it on. And a lot of people say, well, oh, artificial intelligence isn't good. It's going to destroy the world. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. Again, there's several pros and cons to it. Now, I'll say this. This next article here talks about teachers who are already using.
All right, so if you knew how much time you could save with
GPTs, they're already
Microsoft, OpenAI.
Okay, and what they're talking about in this article is the benefit for the teachers, how they've saved time each year, meaning they've saved up to 6 weeks. What's that? 6 weeks? Like 6 times 5 is 30 entire days. Yes, using some type of artificial intelligence, some type of OpenAI or ChatGPT, something with Google's Gemini, large language models, something with Anthropic's Claude, whatever that is, they've been using it, and they've probably been saving a lot of time. And when you can save time, you typically save what else? Money. So let's listen to this article.
All right, so if you knew how much time you could save with artificial intelligence, would you start using it? A new Gallup poll shows that teachers who use AI weekly are saving the equivalent of 6 weeks per school year.
Wow. This report was commissioned by this segment's sponsor, the Walton Family Foundation, which also sponsors Teach Plus. That is a group that supports educators who are leaders in their communities. And joining us now, the CEO of Teach Plus, Kira Orange-Jones, and the CEO and co-founder of Enlighten AI, Gotham Thopper. Thank you both. Let me start with you, Gotham. You are a former U.S. history teacher and also a principal who you created an AI tool specifically for teachers. So what was the need that you saw, and were you surprised at how that tool eventually started being used?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was a teacher, grading and feedback was a hugely impactful part of my practice, but also something that burned me out. I actually got a little bald spot on the back of my head my first year of teaching from all the grading and feedback. But it really worked for my students, and so I wanted to explore how AI could sort of serve as a teacher's assistant for the purposes of grading and feedback. And so the way that our tool works is teacher actually works with the AI the way it would a TA. It calibrates, it grades together, the AI actually learns and adapts, and then it can suggest scores and feedback similar to the teacher. So context aware, still keeping the teacher in the driver's seat, but getting the efficiency that you get from an AI system.
Interesting. Kira, I want to bring you in here. My first job out of college was teaching in South Africa. If I had had such a thing that you told me would help me grade my papers, hardest job I ever did, by the way, there seems, though, to be a discrepancy in the data between how teachers feel about AI based on whether they've used it or based on whether they haven't. What are you hearing?
Well, I'm here. Well, first of all, Teach Plus works with thousands of teachers across the country every day, and we're most deeply in 11 states and working in Washington, D.C. And what we see all the time and hear from our teachers often is they want to improve their craft. They want to be better, right? And so when we think about the result, the data that says you can save 6 weeks of actual learning time with a tool like this, what you actually see is teachers have more time to prepare, more time to actually build relationships with their students, and more time to engage their families. And the part of the data that talks specifically about if teachers have access to it, they're more likely to actually believe and feel optimistically that students will learn, just means that we need to put the tools in teachers' hands as quickly as possible so that they can actually learn how to optimize it.
I love teachers. I'm all for anything that's going to help our educators because they help us raise our next generation. There is a skeptic in me that wonders, like, well, if the AI is grading my child's papers or my papers, if I'm a student, what if it gets it wrong? What if it gives me a lower score than I deserve?
Yeah, this is a great question. We get it all the time. And I think there's a temptation to fall into the binary of the AI does all of the work or the human does all of the work. And really, I think the future is in this AI collaboration with humans, where it augments and extends what a human is already doing. So in our tool, the teacher is actually driving the feedback. The AI is learning from the teacher, and it is really an extension of that teacher's voice. We're seeing more tools like this. We work with New Schools Venture Fund and Teaching Lab Studio, and there are folks that are thinking about impact, starting with the educator as sort of the driving force and the driving seat, with the AI as a tool at their disposal to get the impact and solve the problems that they've been facing for many decades now.
Okay, so let me jump in real quick. A term that I've been hearing a lot is augment. Yeah, augment, like augmentation, augment, AUGMENT. I had to hesitate to make sure I was attempting to spell that correctly. And, augmentation or augment is to improve, is to make better. If you look it up at its base definition, that's what it says. It's like whatever it's augmenting, whatever it's doing, it's there to improve or make better. Here's the thing, though, guys. Typically, or what the desire is, when things are able to augment, sooner or later, especially when it comes to technology, that augment will morph into something called replacement. And I think that's what's on the horizon. And the tech companies know it, okay? If you think about the jobs that will be replaced, if you think about the AIs, the artificial intelligence, the large language models, the things that they do, the algorithms, the machine learnings, all of that high-end tech stuff, knowledge workers are the most vulnerable people or class in the work economy or in our economy. They will be affected first, and they will be affected fast. And that's just going to come by way of automation. Will AI create opportunities, new titles, new types of training, new needs for human beings to perform other tasks and other things? Absolutely it will. But will it do it where it affects the attrition rate of layoffs or slows it down enough where people are still experiencing a thriving economy, especially those who pride themselves and made the decision to go and be a knowledge worker, whether it's through college or some other type of traditional or non-traditional learning, but they became the programmers, the developers. They became, even now, if you think about what this is about, the school teachers. This is about AI partnering with, coming into the classrooms now. So you have the teachers union who are partnering with Microsoft, which is, their AI is Copilot. But Microsoft is also a partner in certain ways, even though they do not own OpenAI. OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, is Sam Altman and his crew. Microsoft is heavily invested in it, but they don't own OpenAI, okay? Microsoft has its own version of AI, and that's Copilot. So by now, if you kind of mess with the Microsoft suite or any of the teams or any of the major apps that's used on an enterprise level for collaboration or whatever, you're probably familiar with Microsoft Copilot. If not, get familiar with it. It's a very powerful tool, and it's like your power user. You have your own R2D2 if you're old enough to understand what that means, right? But anyway, at the bottom of the screen, what you see down there is Elon Musk running his mouth, and we'll get to that in a minute because there's some things to touch on about that. But, hey, Samuel Ponce says, what's good, Samuel? Thanks for even weighing in. Let me post your comment. He says, what will happen to the brain? That's a good question. That's a good question. What will happen to the brain? What would happen to critical thinking? Like, what parts of the brain will we not be using anymore? Okay? But check this out for developers, right? Imagine that you're thinking about
Should we be doing like Big Smile
going
or?
to school
No, what are you doing?
to develop, to write code. Claude, which is a product of Anthropic, they have something called Claude Code. And if you're even learning how to do code, and you're not even in college, you're not even in school, you could use a tool like Claude Code and watch what it does. Check this out. This is crazy cool.
That's creepy.
That's sort of what I think. I'm Boris. I'm an engineer.
I'm Kat. I'm a product manager.
We love seeing what people build with Claude, especially with coding, and we want to make Claude better at coding for everyone. We built some tools, one of which we're sharing today. We're launching Claude Code as a research preview. Claude Code is an agentic coding tool that lets you work with Claude directly in your terminal. We're going to show you an example of it in action.
So we have a project here. It's a Next.js app. Let's open it up in an instance of Claude Code. Now that we've done this, Claude Code has access to all of the files in this repository. We don't know much about this code base. It looks like an app for chatting with a customer support agent. Let's get Claude to help explain this code base to us. Claude starts by reading the higher level files, and then it dives in deeper. Now it's going through all the components in the project. Cool. Here's its final analysis.
So, say I was asked to replace this left sidebar with a chat history, and I'm also going to add a new chat button. I'm going to ask Claude to help me out here. We haven't specified any files or paths, and Claude's already finding the right files to update by itself. Claude can also show its thinking, and we can see how it's decided to tackle this problem. Claude's asking me if I want to accept these changes. I'll say yeah. Now Claude's updating the navbar, adding a button and icons as well. Next, it's updating the logic to ensure the saving state works correctly. After a bit, Claude completes the task. Here's a summary of what it's done. Let's take a look at the app. So we're seeing a new chat button and new chat history section on the left. Let's check if I can start a new chat while keeping the previous one saved. I'll try out the new chat button too. Great, it's all working.
Now let's ask Claude to add some tests to make sure that the features we just added work. Claude's asking for permission to run commands. We'll say yes. Claude is making some changes to run these tests. After getting the results, it continues with its plan until all tests pass. After a few minutes, it looks like we're good to go. Now I'm going to ask Claude to compile the app and see if we get any build errors. Let's see what it finds. Claude identified the build errors and is now fixing them. Then it tries to build again. It'll keep going until it works.
Now let's finish everything up by asking Claude to commit its changes and push them to GitHub. Claude creates a summary and a description of our changes. And it'll push the changes to GitHub. That's it. That's an example of what Claude Code can do.
That is crazy. That is ill. Think about this. What's up, NY Sailing? What's good, Laura? I don't know where you guys... Well, Skylar is here. Okay. Hey, look, all I'm going to say is this. AI in the classrooms, it's about time. It is. Now, are there some pros and cons, both sides? Absolutely there is. But should AI be in the classroom? Absolutely it should be in the classroom. Why? To augment what's going on. to augment what should be going on, to improve upon the services that the teachers are there to deliver, and to improve upon the access and the parity amongst students. That's why. I mean, there's always some issues on both sides. A great argument can be made about critical thinking. Another argument can be made about using AI in the classrooms, embracing the tools, incentivizing the kids to study outside of the classroom or to become more passionate or focused on what it is that excites them or even their learning lessons. And then I think a lot of times what you're going to find out is, here's what I think. I'm just err on the side of caution, or I'm just going to err without any caution. I think what we're going to find out once AI hits the classrooms, you don't need 12 years of schooling. I'll say it. You do not need 12 years of schooling. That's going to go away. I just don't see it. I do not see being able to have exposure to the core curriculum of things, to key subjects, to real interests, to be able to eliminate so much fluff and bureaucracy and class almost, and be able to get to substance and content and teaching materials and different methodologies and current ways of doing things without waiting on a new book, without suffering through, we got to go through this book because the school already paid for it and we can't switch books, even though this information in here no longer applies. I mean, there's just so many truths and untruths that's going to come out of this. But let's go to what they ask. Is college even worth it anymore?
75 grand right out of high school and no college debt. And you're thinking, what's the job? Athlete? Social influencer? Nope. Try welder. That's the salary commanded by an 18-year-old who will soon graduate from Philadelphia's Catholic Father Judge High School. And he's not alone. All 24 graduating seniors in the school's welding program have job offers of $50,000 and above. Aiden Holland is the student with the $75,000 commitment from a defense contractor in New Jersey. They want him to be a nuclear submarine welder. And these stories are not one-offs. They're part of a reevaluation that Randy Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers, calls shedding the misperception some may still have of technical education as a dumping ground for students headed for low-skill, low-paying jobs. This is the new thinking. The world of education is in a state of flux. The 3 R's now stand for rework, revamp, and review. And this thinking applies to both high school and college. And I don't mean the College of Cardinals. It's been long overdue and now accelerated by the role of artificial intelligence. A poll of 1,000 college students showed that almost 90% of them used the chatbot to help with homework. And that was taken right after the launch of ChatGPT. More recent research shows widespread use of AI in both high schools and colleges. The question today is not are students getting help from AI, but are they doing any of the work themselves? Thus, we get the story of Chungin Roy Lee, as told by New York Magazine. A computer science major at Columbia, he was quite open about how he exploited OpenAI. He used it on almost all assignments. He said 80% of his essays were AI generated. Quote, I'd put on the finishing touches, I'd just insert 20% of my humanity. The essays might have been 20% Lee's, but he got 100% of the grade, and that was okay with him. As he explained, most assignments in college are not relevant. But he adds they're hackable by AI. In fact, Lee launched an AI tool that helps students cheat their way through a job interview. Columbia put him on disciplinary probation. Lee notes that Columbia has partnered with OpenAI, which created ChatGPT, so why punish him? He predicts that it won't be long before using AI for homework won't be considered cheating. And if AI can do all the work, then why even go to class? A recent Harvard Crimson article by Sandhya Kumar, class of 2026, looks at the issue of students playing hooky, noting that Harvard has recognized there's a problem and now requires a certain level of attendance. Wrong answer, says Kumar. She says she pulls out her iPad or laptop to work on other assignments when the lecturer can't hold her attention. She recognizes missing class comes with a cost, but her analysis suggests it might be worth it. Check this out. Harvard's tuition, $56,550 a year. Quote, every class I miss costs around $117.81 plus the non-monetary cost of potential implications on my course grade. Who wants to waste $117 and forego a coveted A? The true cost of attending class isn't just measured in dollars, it's measured in time, energy, and opportunity. Every once in a while, that $117.81 feels like a worthwhile trade-off for an extra hour to finish an assignment, prepare for an exam, or recover from an all-nighter. And so I skip class. Kumar adds that students skip out because they don't feel they're learning anything new. They can get what they need based on their own with class materials. So if AI can do all the work and class attendance is unnecessary, then why even invest the 4 years to get a degree? The White House seems to support this position in its own way. President Trump recently signed an executive order that states the government is no longer behind the one-size-fits-all approach to education, which previous administrations promoted as college for all. This new order is designed to modernize American workforce programs to prepare citizens for the high-paying skilled trade jobs of the future. And so we've come full circle now with the Republican Trump White House sounding very much like the teachers' union leader, Randy Weingarten, education making for strange bedfellows. And then again, the president may have his own reasons for supporting this reform because in recent election cycles, education has become the single best predictor of political leanings. Consider that in the 2024 election, Republicans won 14 of the 15 least educated states. Democrats won 14 of the 15 most educated states. Of course, it wasn't that long ago when being a college graduate meant that everybody thought you had the world by the tail and they had advice for you.
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Plastics.
Exactly how do you mean?
There's a great future in plastics. Think about it.
But as we've seen with the rethinking of the place of education and fresh out of high school welding jobs, the emphasis on college for earnings is changing. Mind you, the data still shows that college is the best bet in the long run. According to a recent study with Georgetown University, somebody with a bachelor's degree earns $2.8 million on average over their lifetime. A high school diploma will earn you $1.6 million. Of course, that's just the beginning of the calculus. For instance, engineering and business majors, they earn significantly more than those who get degrees in education or the arts. At the same time, learning a skilled trade offers job security that you can't always find elsewhere. I remember a great bestseller years ago by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. It was called The Millionaire Next Door. The surprising thesis, backed by a ton of research, was that if you want to find someone who's worth $1 million, there's no need to go to Beverly Hills or Park Avenue. You can just look around your own neighborhood. If a person has a steady job, is able to build up a business or a reliable service, and doesn't live a showy, flashy lifestyle, they'll be able to accumulate a surprising amount over the years. A compelling takeaway from The Millionaire Next Door is that many of the millionaires profiled, they weren't doctors, they weren't lawyers, they weren't executives. They were skilled tradespeople. They were small business owners. And the authors found that a significant proportion of millionaires were self-employed in what might be considered blue-collar or middle-market industries. Think plumbers, think welders, electricians, contractors, pest control operators. These individuals often built modest businesses over time. They exercised strict financial discipline. They reinvested profits rather than indulging in lifestyle inflation. Unlike some high-income professionals who often live paycheck to paycheck in high-status neighborhoods, these tradespeople, they lived well below their means. They avoided debt. They focused on wealth accumulation rather than status signaling. So with all the discussion of education reform, one fact emerges. No matter your path, it's not just the learning you get, but what you do with it. Joining me now, someone who knows a great deal about it, Angie Simon, who...
Okay, so I'm just going to jump in. We're going to go to the next clip. What I'm saying is this. Here's where I am with it. AI in the classroom is a good thing. Like anything else, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know what the ugly side is. Like I say, some people say with AI in the classroom, where does the critical thinking go? Where is one's originality? How do we develop those skills? Okay? I mean, how does that happen? I would say this. So Jenny says, let me see, hold up. Let me pin Jenny's message, if I'm pronouncing that right. Jenny or Janine, I apologize if I'm not getting it right. I'll give us 25 more years. Once Gen X is out of the workplace, it's gonna get ugly. He or she also says people are about to become completely ignorant and incapable of learning. So, part of me agrees with that. The other part of me says, was the learning an illusion? Was the so-called path to learning just a carrot? Is that what's happening? Because here's the part of bringing AI into the classrooms that I embrace. Now, one can fast pace or streamline a lot of that information that they're exposed to go and do a job, to seek a career. Now, if we're talking about, well, those careers won't be there, what careers won't be there? There will be nothing for humanity to do. The robots will come get the trash. The robots will come and arrest you. The robots will judge you. The robots will do everything. They will do everything. It's like our robot coming to pass. Physical jobs, a lot of them will be replaced by robots. Knowledge workers, a lot of knowledge workers will be replaced by some sort of automation, some sort of augmented software, AI, what have you. They're already saying that if you're going to school for coding, like it's no sense in doing that. There's no big return in learning how to code in and of itself.
Should we be doing like Big Smile or?
All right, so if you knew how much time you could.
Hang on for a second. And some proof to
Should we be
that
doing like Big Smile or?
is this little clip from Claude Code. So if y'all not familiar with Claude, that's one of Anthropic's, Dario Amodi, that's one of his products. And look what this does in terms of somebody who's learning how to code or does code. Watch this little clip. This is Claude Code. Like you and I could currently, not knowing how to code, use this tool that's available right now, not tomorrow, right now. Watch this.
No, Big Smile's creepy.
That's sort of what I think. I'm Boris. I'm an engineer.
I'm Kat. I'm a product manager.
Now we got a product manager and we have an engineer. And typically, as it currently stands, these are probably very high paying, blue collar, white collar, whatever collar it wraps around. And they probably both work for Anthropic. So they're probably being paid heavily for what they do. But they're not excuse me, I apologize. They are not your traditional engineer and not your traditional, I apologize, product manager or what have you. But watch what the tool does.
We love seeing what people build with Claude, especially with coding, and we want to make Claude better at coding for everyone. We built some tools, one of which we're sharing today. We're launching Claude Code as a research preview.
Now, Claude Code. This is crazy. This is me not knowing how to code. This is me just having an interest in code if I want it. This is you not knowing how to code, but maybe wanting to learn how to code. This is our kids, our grandkids in school, AI in there, or after school, being able to do this on their phone wherever they at the basketball court, at the skating rink, hanging out with friends. If their interest is to learn how to code or get an idea if this is what I want to do, or to find out who can assist me with doing this, watch this. This is amazing to me.
Claude Code is an agentic coding tool that lets you work with Claude directly in your terminal. We're going to show you an example of it in action.
So we have a project here. It's a Next.js app. Let's open it up in an instance of Claude Code. Now that we've done this, Claude Code has access to all of the files in this repository. We don't know much about this code base. It looks like an app for chatting with a customer support agent. Let's get Claude to help explain this code base to us. Claude starts by reading the higher level files, and then it dives in deeper. Now it's going through.
Now, if you're confused because you have no clue about coding, in the language, the vernacular is already throwing you off. Let's get Claude to read this code base. Claude has access to the files. Basically, what it's saying is this AI, this Claude, is looking at the base files, the main files that should be considered when reading the script, when reading the application, when reading lines of code. That's what it's doing. And without you knowing it or anybody knowing it, but you just want to see what it's about, Claude will go in and analyze it for you and say, let me take a look at the code for you. Even though you may have downloaded it from somewhere and this is supposed to be some code that's able to do X, Y, Z. But if you wanted to put a set of real eyes, a different level of intelligence, a different methodology on it, that's what Claude is going to do. Let me go in there and tell you all about this. Let me tell you what I see. Let me bullet point what this does, what it is attempting to do, what it might be used. It's crazy. This works for somebody who don't know. Imagine how empowering that would be for one's understanding about someone who's trying to learn it to try to know. It's just doing it. It's going to do it. Watch. Listen to what it said it's going to do. Listen to what it says.
This code base to us. Claude starts by reading the higher level files, and then it dives in deeper. Now it's going through all the components in the project. Cool. Here's its final analysis.
So say I was asked to replace this left sidebar with a chat history, and I'm also going to add a new chat button. I'm going to ask Claude to help me out here. We haven't specified any files or paths, and Claude's already finding the right files to update by itself. Claude can also show its thinking, and we can see how it's decided to tackle this problem.
Isn't that crazy? The damn tool is going to show you its thinking. It's going to express in human language. This is, what I'm thinking. Even though we know it doesn't think in and of itself, but it thinks relative to the way it's going to respond, what it's doing, what it's considering, what it's evaluating, what it's reading in its own artificial intelligent way, in its own neural networks, in its own language model, in its own machine learning, deep learning, matrices, arrays, whatever it does, right? And then it comes back and says, and it tries to do that in a way that communicates with us. In other words, the goal of most, if not all of these AI tools, like your ChatGPTs, your Groks, your Geminis, and all of these other large language models, is to become or appear to be what they call sentient. Sentient, meaning almost emotionally aware, as well as what a human would be, contextually, emotional intelligence and all of this. That's the goal. We're away from that, but that's the idea. So that's why it says, I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking. I mean, you're really not thinking. I'm gonna tell you what I'm processing. I'm gonna tell you what my algorithm is. I'm going to tell you what my mathematical scores, my derivatives are, my weights are inside the vector database so that I can predict and let you know whatever, right? This is going towards the machine, but we get it. It's crazy.
Claude's asking me if I want to accept these changes. I'll say yeah. Now Claude's updating the navbar, adding a button and icons as well.
Mind you, all this coding, all of this is what's going on. The engineer, as well as the product manager, they haven't typed in anything. They haven't done anything. I'm not saying they haven't done anything. They know a lot, but they haven't really, they're just putting in a line or two and allowing Claude to do the rest. They're just clicking OK or they tab and go ahead, you can move forward, and they're allowing Claude. It's going to identify the errors. I'm going to process this. I'm going to evaluate this. This is crazy. This is like vibe coding in and of itself.
Next, it's updating the logic to ensure the saving state works correctly. After a bit, Claude completes the task. Here's a summary of what it's done. Let's take a look at the app. So we're seeing a new chat button and new chat history section on the left. Let's check if I can start a new chat while keeping the previous one saved. I'll try out the new chat button too. Great, it's all working.
Now let's ask Claude to add some tests to make sure that the features we just added work. Claude's asking for permission to run commands. We'll say yes. Claude is making some changes to run these tests. After getting the results, it continues with its plan until all tests pass. After a few minutes, it looks like we're good to go. Now I'm going to ask Claude to compile the app and see if we get any build errors. Let's see what it finds. Claude identified the build errors and is now fixing them. Then it tries to build again. It'll keep going until it works.
Now let's finish everything up by asking Claude to commit its changes and push them to GitHub. Claude creates a summary and a description of our changes. And it'll push the changes to GitHub. That's it. That's an example of what Claude Code can do. We can't wait.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I mean, that's crazy. Now, what's the warning to the knowledge workers? What's going to happen to the economy? This right here is Claude Code. And this is one of the products out of Anthropic. Anthropic's founder, CEO, is Dario Amodei. And this is Dario Amodei right here. This is
a well-known and respected tech.
Dario Amodei, the owner of Anthropic, and Claude is one of the products of Anthropic. He's going to talk about what's about to happen in the workplace because of OpenAI for these knowledge workers, not physical workers, knowledge workers, including myself.
A well-known and respected tech CEO, Dario Amodei, who heads a cutting-edge AI company called Anthropic, is raising alarms tonight about AI's potential impact on employment that could soon be felt. While he says AI can lead to incredible advancements like medical breakthroughs and boost the economy, he believes it could also lead to half of entry-level white-collar jobs disappearing and 10 to 20% unemployment in the next 1 to 5 years. It's something that's been talked about within tech circles for a while, but rarely so starkly and so publicly. I spoke to him just before air about that and other implications he thinks AI may have on society. Dario, you've said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20%. How soon might that happen?
Well, let's, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. But just to back up a little bit, you know, I've been building AI for over a decade. And I think maybe the most salient feature of the technology and what is driving all of this is how fast the technology is getting better. A couple of years ago, you could say that AI models were maybe as good as a smart high school student. I would say that now they're as good as a smart college student and sort of reaching past that. I really worry, particularly at the entry level, that the AI models are very much at the center of what an entry level human worker would do. And so it's hard to estimate, exactly what the impact would be. And there's always this question of adaptation. And these technology changes have happened before, but I think what is striking to me about this AI boom is that it's bigger and it's broader and it's moving faster than anything has before. And so compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough. And so there may be an adjustment period.
You are running an incredibly important company in AI, and you know this better than anybody, or as well as all the names we know, people, Sam Altman and others who are working, Elon Musk in AI. Why are you raising the alarm? Because it's not necessarily, I would think, in your best interest, because a lot of the messages we hear from, at least publicly, from some AI CEOs and stuff is a little bit more calming, like, these agents are going to be great in your life, and yes, there may be problems, but, writ large, this is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I'm raising the alarm is that I think others haven't as much, and I think someone needs to say it. To be clear, and I recognize it's always a difficult balance, right? I'm aware of my position that I'm building this technology while also expressing concerns about it, and the reason I'm doing both of those things is, one, I think the benefits are massive, and we need to find a way to achieve the benefits and mitigate or prevent the harms. And the second thing I would say is, look, there are, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 companies in the U.S. building this technology, right? If we stop doing it tomorrow, the rest would continue. If all of us somehow stopped doing it tomorrow, then China would just beat us. And I don't think China winning in this technology is, I don't think that helps anyone or makes the situation any better.
I do want to read something that Sam Altman, your former boss at OpenAI, said in September. He was saying that AI can cause significant, in his words, significant change in labor markets, good and bad. He went on to say that most jobs will change more slowly than most people think. And then he said this, and I want to just read it word for word. He said, many of the jobs we do today would have looked like trifling wastes of time to people a few hundred years ago. But nobody is looking back at the past wishing they were a lamplighter. If a lamplighter could see the world today, he would think the prosperity all around him was unimaginable. And if we could fast forward 100 years from today, the prosperity all around us would feel just as unimaginable. For younger people, I should say lamplighters was actually a job. People went around lighting lamps on the streets. I think a lot of people may not even know what a lamplighter is. But do you think Sam Altman is wrong?
Yeah, so, I think there are some things I agree with about that, and then there are some things that I think are too optimistic. So, I definitely agree that, AI, if we succeed at it, can grow the pie greatly, right? I wouldn't be surprised if economic growth is much higher than it is today as a macroscopic phenomenon, right? That AI allows society as a whole to be more productive. So
let me just say, because you've previously in the past said you've described a future where cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs.
That's exactly what I was getting to, right? Where I agree with all the positive potential. I think that isn't wrong. But I think the quote you just flashed is maybe too optimistic, maybe too sanguine about the ability for people to adapt. People have adapted to past technological changes, but I'll say again, everyone I've talked to has said this technological change looks different. It looks faster. It looks harder to adapt to. It's broader. The pace of progress keeps catching people off guard. And so I don't know exactly how fast the job concerns are going to come. I don't know how fast people are going to adapt. It's possible it'll all be okay, but I think that's too sanguine an approach. I think we do need to be raising the alarm. I think we do need to be concerned about it. I think policymakers do need to worry about it. if they do worry and they do act, then maybe we can prevent it. But we're not going to prevent it just by saying everything's going to be okay.
Do we as a society even understand the potential inequalities that this may amplify? And also the impact just on what, like I have little kids, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. What do they grow up aspiring to if machines can do pretty much everything better? What does it do to initiative or drive or striving? And I don't know the answer to that, but it concerns me.
Let's take those questions one by one. Those do concern me, but I do have thoughts on them. In terms of inequality, I'm worried about this. There's an inherent social contract in democracy where ultimately, the ordinary person has a certain amount of leverage because they're contributing to the economy. If that leverage goes away, then it's hard to make democracy. It's harder to make democracies work, and it's harder to prevent concentration of power. And so, we need to make sure that the ordinary person maintains economic leverage and has a way to make a living, or our society, our social contract won't work. And that's why I think it's important. During testing, your company's latest chatbot, Claude 4, was capable of what was described as extreme blackmail. Specifically, I understand it threatened to reveal an engineer's extramarital affair when it was told it would be taken offline and replaced. This was a simulation. Were you surprised by that? And what does that, that freaked me out when I read that. What does that mean? Yeah, so just to be clear and to put this in context, this was, as you said, a behavior that emerged during kind of extreme testing of the model. So if you were to make an analogy to, cars, this is like, you deliberately put the car on the iciest road possible, you mess with the brakes, and, you do that so you can see if you really stress test the thing, you can, then you can make the crash dummy blow up. Right. So this isn't something that the model does in practice and actual usage. But the reason we stress test the models this way is, that's the best way to test for and prevent problems in the real world. So right, icy roads do exist. Yeah, no, but exactly. You want to turn every adversarial condition up to the max all at once. Right. And it's only by testing in that way that you get the model to not do that in the real world. So I wasn't surprised by these behaviors. But this is an example of how we have to be very careful in how we take control of AI systems. Does it? The obvious question is, does that portend AI becoming self-aware, and could that lead to dire consequences? I certainly don't exclude the concept. We have a couple people who are actually working on this topic. As crazy as it sounds, do AI systems have morally significant feelings? I would guess that they don't right now, but when you run an AI company, these crazy seeming questions are things that you study. So I would say this is probably not the case now, but again, the field is advancing so fast that I don't think you can exclude even crazy sounding things like this. What are practical steps people should take to be prepared? Ordinary citizens.
I'll say like this. I'll just throw it up in the air like this. We're living now. So I would say get familiar with AI tools. I would say, reskill if you have to. I'm just talking about people that are living now. I'm not talking about kids. If you're in the workforce now, you want to become aware. You want to not wait for your manager to tell you learn additional things, especially when it comes to automation, streamlining processing, and like I said, the AI tools. Because part of what's going to happen is people are not just going to be replaced by AI. They're going to be replaced by people who understand AI but can do a particular thing. So you might be in the position that you are now at your job, in your department, in your area, or whatever that is. It doesn't matter the domain. But when the supervisors and the directors and the people who make the decisions, when they start realizing that you are aware of AI tools, you know how to prompt, you understand ChatGPT beyond just somebody asking a simple question or two. you understand the different use cases of different types of tools, you're going to become a different type of asset all of a sudden. They're going to look at you different. And they're going to want your input, or they're going to allow you to stretch in other areas because you do understand it, whether it be something like working with a group that's trying to procure a particular AI tool to help them solve or streamline some process or to work through some challenge that they have. And all of a sudden, you know, there's this dual, not effort, but this, the way that they look at you. All I'm saying is, if you're working now, you know, and you're a knowledge worker, not a physical worker, you just want to become more aware of what can assist you either maintain your current position or take advantage of upward mobility into something new because you're with it. What do I mean by with it? You're not walking around talking about, I don't like AI, forget it, I'm not going to learn nothing. You're embracing it. You're sharing your ideas, how to do things, what you try, different things like that. I know that's not a solution in and of itself. I'm just saying, if you're a knowledge worker, call center agents, if you're working some position where you over top of maybe some people in different processes and different things like that, you're going to see that change in the next couple years. And when they redo those budgets and that org chart, all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of these positions getting dropped or muted. They're going to mutate into something else. They just are. I don't know if you guys,
as you know, there's lots of talk about
ever used the company
A well-known and respected tech CEO.
Fiverr before, right?
As you know, there's lots of talk about
Fiverr,
artificial
Fiverr is one of those companies where you could source out. A lot of people was using it to get some Photoshop stuff done or websites built or some type of automation within a web service connected to a database. And it was just all type of little techie stuff, whether it's content creation, database builds, websites, e-commerce stuff or whatever. People would hire out or source out to this site called Fiverr, and that's F-I, like 5 with 2 R's at the end. But even they are feeling it. And check out this article.
As you know, there's lots of talk about artificial intelligence and concerns that it could make many people's jobs obsolete. Well, the CEO of Fiverr, that's a platform that connects freelancers and companies looking to hire them, sent this email to his employees last month. And as you see there, it says in part, quote, AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my job too. This is a wake-up call. Michal Kaufman is the CEO and joins us now to talk about the future of AI and the workplace. You know, as much traction as this email has received, you've really stirred up the comment section. It's been a popular refrain in the past few years. So give our viewers a bit of a pulse check. How alarmed should people be that AI is already here?
Well, it's absolutely here. And you know, I think the email came at the backdrop of our employees that are wondering if they have a future in their professions. And they weren't really waiting for my email. And if anything, this email was a validation of the things that they feel. And it was all about, you know, talking openly and directly to our team like grown-ups. They're not kids. They don't need to sugarcoat anything. And they really needed the validation that their fears are valid, but also a leadership perspective of what they can do about it.
And let's talk more about that. How can someone who believes their job will be made obsolete by AI, how can they differentiate themselves to make themselves useful, I guess, to be able to work with these AI systems?
Yeah. So look, I think that the way I'm looking at this from an executive standpoint is, I think we were given with superpowers, but this should reflect in how people work. So my expectations are double or triple the output per unit of time, and the same for the quality per unit of delivery. And the reality is that since what we're seeing with these tools, the reality of businesses and products is that no one has a crystal ball. So if no one has the advantage of knowing where this is going, our main advantage is speed. It's our ability to move faster. So what I told the team is I want to reduce the cost of error. If something used to take us 3 months to build and then fail, because a lot of the things that we do try end up failing, today we can test things in 3 days. So by reducing the cost of error, we can do much more to find out the things that are working, and the team should support this. And my overarching message was, in an ideal situation, I want everyone to automate 100% of what they're doing. And that might raise the question, will that make them replaceable? And my answer is absolutely not, because it's on the contrary. When you have all of your time free because you're not doing the technical things that you can automate, you free up your time to do things that human beings have special capabilities in, which is like nonlinear thinking, judgment calls, issues that have to do with taste, making decisions, thinking about strategy. And I think that there is one thing that people get wrong about AI, and that is that it doesn't really replace us. It actually forces us to rediscover our humanity, the things that we are special in, the special attributes of every person, their special powers, and automate the things that are just wasting some of our times as, acting as technicians.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make, and I tend to think that because AI will do all the boring stuff, it's even more important for people to bring their experiences, bring their life perspective to their roles.
Anyway, I get it. I'm just saying, I'm a knowledge worker. So that means how I earn a living, how I pay my bills, directly affected by AI. It just is. Now, what have I done, or what am I doing to adjust to that? What I've been doing is learning how to use the different tools to more effectively do my work and provide a different level of service for clients. That's what I've been doing. Now, that's because of now, right? There's this transitional period now where people can still kind of hold on to what they have for a minute and kind of embrace the use of the tools, still get things done, still create value for yourself, and keep it moving. There is a period of time that's going to come in the near future where that idea of augmentation, that idea of supporting, improving, making better is going to take on a different form of replacing. And people will, I think, lose jobs behind that. But again, you have to adjust. You have to be aware. You have to read the room. And some people, many of us, are just going to get ran over anyway. And we will figure it out. I mean, innovation, technology, the industrial age, and other things have been the history of humanity. That's just the story told. I don't think that AI in and of itself will wipe that out, at least not in the immediate future. Okay. But guys, I'm telling you, get ready. Here goes Sam Altman, the OpenAI guy himself.
I'm a 4.0 student, but I also have 4 children. When I started using ChatGPT, I realized I could ask ChatGPT that question, and not only does it give me an answer, but it gives me an explanation. Didn't need tutoring as much. It gave me a life back. It gave me time for my family and time for me.
I have chronic nerve pain on my whole left half of my body. I have nerve damage. I had like a brain surgery. And so I have like limited use of my left hand. Now you can just have like the integration of voice input. And then the newest one where you can have the back and forth dialogue, that's just like maximum best interface for me. It's here.
So we love hearing the stories of how people are using the technology. It's really why we do all of this. Okay, so now on to the new stuff, and we have got a lot. First, we're going to talk about a bunch of improvements we've made, and then we'll talk about where we're headed next. Over the last year, we spent a lot of time talking to developers around the world.
No, I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to check that out, Richard. Yeah, I haven't seen that piece you're talking about. Yeah, that's crazy. I do, yeah. I do some tech stuff, and I've been using the tools. But I'll say this much. Everything that I'm doing as far as the tech stuff, it'll be easy to replace me. It would. Like, I look at what I do, and other than, I can't even say other than that, meaning I was about to say other than getting creative and, hey, look, try this from this angle and different things like that, I was going to say I can't be replaced, but that's not true, because these models, these AIs, they can just look at things from more options and different perspectives than many may think, especially when it's technology based. That's just the reality of it. And everything I do is digital. Everything I do is technology based. Every bill I pay, the gas I put in my car, it's all generated from something I'm doing on a computer, on a server, in some type of app, for work, for a client, for a friend, whatever it is. That's just what it is. I am not a physical worker. I don't earn any money. I don't earn $1 with the use of my hands outside of the keyboard. I just don't. I'm strictly a knowledge worker. And like I said, knowledge workers are more vulnerable, will be the first stage, the first stages of just getting knocked out of the box. It's just what it is. So maybe I need to learn how to paint a floor too. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. I want to say thank you for whoever stopped through. And